You know, more than anything, Israel has opposed Iran's nuclear program over the years. I mean, that's really, for Israel, that's the salient issue right there. I know they are lobbing bombs and different things, but a nuclear weapon, that would be totally unprecedented. Nothing like that's ever happened between those two, obviously, ever. So Israel has opposed Iran's nuclear program by trying to isolate the country diplomatically, as well as by allegedly killing a series of their Iranian nuclear scientists. And for years, experts and politicians were consumed by debate over whether Israel would or should go ahead and bomb Iran's nuclear facilities. Now, you're probably talking about World War III tomorrow morning, or maybe this afternoon once that happens. And so they haven't done that, but there's been a lot of talk about it, right? And it may happen in the near future. I don't know. But combating Iran has especially been a focus of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who said shortly before he returned to office back in 2022, after all of those, elections that they had, that Israel faces three main challenges. Prime Minister Netanyahu said, here's our three main challenges: Iran, Iran, and Iran. So that's our biggest challenge here. Above everything else, the proxies, he understands very well what's going on. Because all the other challenges pale in comparison to, he says, if we are threatened by a regime that calls for our destruction, that is armed with the weapons of mass death or nuclear weapons. So, the Hamas terror group that previously governed Gaza and is a proxy of Iran, you remember, I'm walking you through this timeline here, that they invaded Israel on October 7th of last year. They launched this horribly bloody, ongoing war in Gaza. And according to the American Jewish Committee, many of you know the story, at 6:30 a.m. on October 7th, it was our second day of touring on that tour. We take a 14-day tour. This was our second day of touring. Hamas, which again is the Iranian-backed terror group, they controlling Gaza, they launched this unprovoked and vicious surprise attack on over 20 communities, kibbutz, daycare centers, where old people were living. I mean, man, woman, child, grandma and grandpa, babies. In southern Israel there, right along the border between Gaza and Israel. They used rockets, paragliders, boats, motorcycles, other vehicles, air, land, and sea, whatever means they could. These terrorists infiltrated the Jewish state. They murdered, they raped, it was just about, right about 1,200, just over 1,200 totally innocent people. Many of them in their homes. Many of them were at an outdoor, kind of like a music festival where they were dancing and different things. These people come in there and just started slaughtering them. It included 30 Americans. They injured over 5,400 people, and they took 240 hostages down into Gaza. That's what all the hostage talk is about today. So, of course, Iran, they praised the attack, and in what are we now, probably 10 months, 9-10 months from last October, they praised that their proxies have stepped up their strikes on Israel and its allies. Now, again, I'm not going to get into really the ideology of Iran or how they glorify death or some of the horrible things that happened on October 7th, but it was an unprecedented terrorist attack. But yet, the international community has said, stand down, Israel, cease the war in Gaza, do a ceasefire, negotiate a ceasefire, don't retaliate. Just, in other words, they can bomb you, they can kill 1,200 people, but don't retaliate. The United States has said they should have the ability to protect themselves and to defend themselves. But most of the international community has been trying to get them to stop the war. Don't defend yourself. Oh, Hezbollah in the north, fires bombs over there and hits a school or a hotel or a soccer field, killing 12 kids. But yet, stand down, Israel, stand down. Don't retaliate. You see what's going on here? Imagine when the Battle of Armageddon gets here and the Great Tribulation. You can see the mindset of the international community towards Israel. The heaviest fire has come in this conflict, which is, it all plays in together. This ring of fire in Iran, Hezbollah, another terrorist proxy of Iran. The heaviest fire into Israel has come from Hezbollah. It's a much larger terror group than Hamas. It's on Israel's northern border up in Lebanon, and they've been exchanging fire with Israel constantly. Hamas invaded on October 7th. Hezbollah started lobbing bombs into Israel on October 8th. So Israel's been fighting a two-front war pretty much since then. Hundreds have been killed in those clashes. And most Israelis believe the conflict is going to escalate into an all-out war, be the first on that border since 2006. So, why did Iran attack in April? A direct attack. Well, if you remember, earlier that month, Israel, I'll say, is believed. They never really just say, yeah, it was us, and start jumping up and down like Iran does. But Israel is believed to have killed 3 senior Iranian military officials at the Iranian embassy complex in Damascus. Many of you remember this if you follow this stuff. The officials from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, they helped oversee the Iranian operations in Syria and Lebanon, and which both border Israel. And so they were killed. It's not the first time Israel has allegedly taken aim at Iranian officials in Syria since October 7. And it reportedly killed and I say reportedly because you, me, and everybody else knows Israel did it. But they will never come out and say, it was me like Iran does. Or Hezbollah or the Houthis or whoever. So, and they reportedly killed another in a December strike in Damascus, another official. But the strike nearly 2 weeks earlier were more extensive at an Iranian diplomatic compound. So, Iran then vowed to retaliate. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, he said the evil regime has made a mistake and it should be punished and will be punished. Of course, that has happened. Israel and American officials took that threat seriously, despite divisions over the war in Gaza, and U.S. officials vowed to stand by Israel if it were attacked. Well, the United States warned its diplomatic staff in Israel to remain in population centers out of fear of this Iranian attack. Well, a day before the attack, following a meeting with a senior U.S. military official who flew to Israel to address the situation, Israeli Defense Minister, his name is Yoav Gallant, he said, well, hey, we're prepared to defend ourselves on the ground and in the air and in close cooperation with our partners, and we will know how to respond. Well, what happened during the attack? Well, intelligence reports indicated that Iran might, for the first time, attack Israel directly. And they were absolutely correct. It was late on April the 13th, again, we were up in Jim Baker's ministry in Branson, that Iran shot hundreds of drones and missiles at sites across Israel. The scope of the attack was really kind of unusual because attacks by Iranian proxies, they usually focus on one area of the country. You know, I mean, like the northern border or the area near Gaza. But Iranian projectiles appeared to fly towards all parts of Israel. They spread out. And they were even sighted in places that Islamic militants tend to avoid targeting. I mean, like Jerusalem, and which is, as they claim, I say as they claim very loosely, a holy city to Muslims and Palestinian communities in the West Bank. But damage from the strike appeared to be minimal. A young girl in Israel's south was seriously wounded, and then, of course, the military base sustained some damage. So, The Israeli Defense Forces, they said that most of the incoming fire was intercepted. And several hours after the attack began, Israelis were told that, hey, you no longer need to remain close to your homes or your bomb shelters. So the attack, it was stemmed with the help from Israelis' allies. Remember, the United States, the United Kingdom, they helped shoot down some of the missiles, as did Jordan. Jordan even cut their airspace off, and with neighbors, which the neighbors Israel and the West Bank to the east, and they shot down projectiles over its airspace. So Netanyahu said, you know, in recent years, and especially in recent weeks, Israel's been preparing for a direct attack by Iran. This was in April. Our defense systems are deployed. We're ready for any scenario, both defensive and offensively. Okay. So what happened next? Well, many had they speculated that this would either be the end of this round of conflict when Iran shot those missiles and drones off, or it would be the beginning of a wider war. But nobody really knew for sure. A statement from Iran's mission to the United Nations seemed they seemed to speculate, you know, they didn't know. Maybe there's both possibilities. On one hand, it said Iran's military action was in response to the Zionist regime's aggression against our diplomatic premises in Damascus. And the matter can be deemed concluded. So everybody thought, well, hey, maybe it's going to go away, right? But then it said, however, should the Israeli regime make another mistake, which all Israel's doing is retaliating to what the proxies are doing to them. I want you guys to understand that, because the news can completely spin it the other way and make it out like Israel is the aggressor, i.e. the International Criminal Court, International Court of Justice. So Iran said Iran's response will be considerably more severe. It is a conflict between Iran and the rogue Israeli regime from which the U.S. must stay away. Well, Israeli officials, they were non-committal. Israel is a master at that. And they said that we have determined a clear principle. Whoever harms us, we're going to harm them. And we will defend ourselves against any threat, and we'll do so level-headedly and with determination. This is Netanyahu. Well, Defense Minister Gallant, he said, well, we're prepared for anything, any further threats, and are determined to defend our citizens. So, ever since the October 7 attack, fears, and this is where we're at today, fears of a wider regional war have escalated, because everybody knows that with Hamas and Hezbollah doing things that are unprecedented, Israel has at some point to go after the head of the snake, because it's never going to go away. If Israel were to wipe out all of Hamas, they've still got to deal with Hezbollah, the Houthis, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, all the terrorist proxies in Syria and Iraq. It's never going to go away. They know, everybody knows, that at some point Israel has to deal with Iran. Now, Iran and Israel are in direct conflict with each other. And so that's where we're at today. And we're probably going to go a little deeper into this on the backside of the break, and I'll bring you up to today. What's going on in the news as we speak, because you need to understand this. We're all living through it. Like I said, ever since the October 7th attack, and this was very real to me and my wife and our tour group because we were there, and I just follow it like a hawk every day, you guys. Ever since this October 7th attack, there have been fears of a wider regional war. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's speculating what's going to happen between Israel and Iran. And, you know, shortly after that Hamas attack, President Joe Biden, he warned adversaries of Israel, hey, don't broaden the conflict. Of course, everybody was shaking in their shoes, right? Their knees were knocking. Joe Biden warned us about he might attack. Okay, yeah, right. After the Afghanistan debacle, come on. Our adversaries were shaking in their shoes, weren't they? Well, since then, there's been fighting on multiple fronts. Gaza, Still, Lebanon, the West Bank, Yemen, and beyond. Well, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, not Anthony, but Antony, he said back in February, this is an incredibly volatile time in the Middle East. I would argue that we've not seen a situation as dangerous as the one we're facing right now across the region since at least 1973 and arguably even before that. So, some voices in Israel are calling on it to strike back. Culture and Sports Minister, I think it's Mickey Zohar, who is a Netanyahu ally, said that Iran's strike gave Israel broad international legitimacy to strike Iran with unprecedented force. Now, this is what everybody wants to keep from happening. Iran and Israel at loggerheads with each other directly. Because then you could bring in Russia, China, and then the United States, Britain, Europe, and you're talking about a global war at this point. So, following the strike, and an unnamed Israeli official said that Israel's response would be coordinated with allies. Now, this was after April 13th. Now the Israeli decision about what to do next belonged to the country's war cabinet. That was made up of Netanyahu, Gallant, and former defense minister, what's the guy I can picture him in my, Benny Gantz. So whether they decided to strike back, that was going to determine whether this round of conflict was over or whether it could lead to an even larger war. Well, of course, Israel made its decision. Iran, they fired off all the missiles on April 13th. Israel made its decision, and on April 20, they used a radar-evading missile to hit the S-300 defenses near Natanz nuclear site in Iran. And they were sending them a message. The New York Times, they said that the strike was deliberately designed to send a message on how a wider attack could look, with Israel able to penetrate Iranian defenses undetected anytime they want to. And I've got a friend in the military that told me that Israel knows exactly where everything's at in Iran. They know exactly how close Iran is to getting a nuclear weapon. And he told me they absolutely were prepared to go nose to nose with Iran to invade and to destroy all of that before they would allow them to get a nuclear weapon. So we're staring all this stuff right in the face because now it's Iran and Israel directly. Okay? All these years, decades, it's been Iran through the terrorist proxies. Well, let's move forward here. Let's go to July 19th. I'm going to bring you up to today so you know what's going on in the news. In a rare breach of Israel's multi-layered air defense system, because they've got the Iron Dome system, right? And when Hamas and Hezbollah, when they shoot their rockets off, they're so far in the air, Israel's missile defense system, Iron Dome, detects that and it fires off and goes up there and blows them up in the air, so it won't harm anybody, right? Well, on July 19th, that didn't work. It was a rare breach of Israel's multi-layered air defense system, Iron Dome. A drone fired by the Houthi militia down in Yemen slammed into an apartment building near the United States Embassy branch office in Tel Aviv. Now, that was July 19th, folks. Tel Aviv is where Ben Gurion Airport is, which is where we fly into every time we go into Israel. That's the main population center of Israel. And the Houthis down in Yemen, 1,200 miles away, were able to get a drone to come up there and hit an apartment building in Tel Aviv. The Iron Dome did not pick it up, and it killed at least one person and wounded 8 others. This was July 19th. Today is August the 6th. So you can see how this thing's escalating. July 20, Saudi Arabia reported that the joint Israeli forces, the Israelis, the U.S., and the U.K., their strikes targeted a Yemeni port. So Israel says, okay, boom, we're going right back down after Yemen. So the Ali Arabia outlet, which is a Saudi paper, Saudi news source, they cited unnamed sources and said that the strike against the fuel depot and oil refineries at the port of Al Hadaya in Yemen, that they were carried out jointly by Israel, the United States, and the UK. That was July 20. The report also claimed that 12 Israeli aircraft, including F-35 fighter jets, participated in the attack. Okay? So the United States is protecting Israel a lot more than some people believe. Forget what Joe Biden and them are doing in the White House. Israel and the United States are side by side in all of this, okay? And I know it sounds crazy because Israel's allowing money, or the United States is allowing money to flow into Iran's coffers. Actually, they're coffins maybe before very long. And allowing them to fund their terrorists, but it's crazy what's going on in Washington. Thank God there's a God. Without God, I would be scared. Thank God that we've got God on our side, right? So, jump forward to Hezbollah's strike on the soccer field in Majdal Shams on, this would be July 27. Again, today's August 6. So you can see how close we are. July 27, 12 children are killed as a Hezbollah rocket hits a soccer field, of course, sparking wider warfares. July 30, Israel strikes as retaliation. Again, all of this is in retaliation for what these terrorist proxies of Iran are doing to Israel. Israelis strike in Beirut, Lebanon, and they killed Hezbollah's most senior military commander, Fad Shakur, and who it blamed for the deadly attack on the Israel-occupied Golan Heights on Majdal Shams, which is what are they called? They're called a Druze village up there it'd be like, think of the United States, think of Maine, all the way up in the northeast corner. Well, that's the way the Golan Heights is with Israel. It's all the way up in the northeast corner, bordering Lebanon and Syria, all the way up in the northeast. Well, that's where that Hezbollah rocket hit that soccer field in the Druze village of Majdal Shams. That was July 27. Israel went on July 30 and bombed the guy who was over that attack, the architect of that, and killed him in Beirut, Lebanon. July 31, the Hamas leader, Ismail Haniyeh, Israel assassinated him in a strike in Tehran, which is the capital of Iran. Now, that was July 31. August the 1st, 5 days ago, top Iranian officials, they met with representatives of Iran's regional allies, or their terrorist proxies, from Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen, and they met to discuss potential retaliation against Israel after the killing of the Hamas leader in Tehran. So, you kind of get an idea of what's going on right now. Today, as we sit here, April 6th, many people thought that the attack was going to happen yesterday from Iran on Israel. Hasn't happened yet, unless it's happened while I've been sitting here on the radio. But today, Israel is waiting, Israel and the United States are waiting on that Iranian attack. This morning, 19 people were injured. One of them was critically wounded after a Hezbollah drone strike attacked on the Western Galilee. Now, the Western Galilee is up towards, so you got Israel here, the Galilee, the Sea of Galilee is in the north. But when it says the Western Galilee, it's talking about that region up there. That's all called Galilee. But very close to where we stay when we go up north on our tour groups. It's coming down. The other day I saw fires, a picture of fires by the town of Capernaum, which is right on the northern shores of the Sea of Galilee. And we eat lunch there. I'm all up and down through there. I've been there many, many, many times. And now there was a rockets fired down all the way down there. It's a long way from Lebanon. And they had set some fields on fire. And I thought, man, it's just right where we're at, right where I've been. And it's where Jesus did most of his miracles right up in there. So Iran has decided to attack Israel. It's all over the paper. According to Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz, who received the warning from a Hungarian foreign minister, his name's Peter Szarto. This message originated from Iran's acting foreign minister, al-Bagheri. He underscores Iran's intent to retaliate for the assassination of the Hamas leader, Ismail Haniyeh. And the United States, again, just like it did on April 13th, has anticipated an Iranian attack within 48 hours and is coordinating with allies to bolster our defenses. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Israel Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, they labeled the situation a dangerous escalation, and amid these tensions, diplomatic efforts have continued to de-escalate the situation and prevent a broader regional conflict. Now, folks, that's where we stand today. Israel and the United States and everybody in that region is awaiting Iran's retaliation attack. And the Bible says, what's that got to do with Bible prophecy? Revelation 9, 13 through 21. Loose the four angels bound in the great river Euphrates, for to kill a third part of all of mankind. And there is the potential that we could be staring World War III in the face, if not some of these other, some of these other conflicts have not been the beginning of it. And maybe we've been at war for years, and it just hasn't, like some people believe, it just hasn't escalated to the point where we would have mass casualties. So, again, sitting here as a minister of the gospel of the kingdom of God, I don't want the war to happen. I wish it wouldn't happen. I wish there was a peaceful solution. But the Bible says it's going to happen, folks. And so with that said, what do? I mean, I'm trusting in God. I'm preaching and teaching the gospel of the kingdom of God. There's not one thing I can do about it. I'm trusting God. I'm praying every day. I'm seeking his face, seeking to be a spirit-led individual, and I'm trying to prepare as many people as I can for the soon coming of Jesus Christ. Because again, there's not one thing I can do about it. I can pray and I can ask God to keep his hands upon all of the people over there and everybody in my sphere of influence and all around the world. But the war's coming. And I wanted you to know what's going on in the Middle East right now, because it's very, very important. We've got to keep an eye on it and pray for Israel.